Yeah, and you may get 300 marketing leads, but then if none of them close, you have to look at that and say, is it the quality of the leads or is it the sales team's bad? You need to address that issue.
Hello, and welcome to a whole new episode of Engati CX. I'm your host, Kimberly, and we're really glad to have all of you join us today. On the show, we talk to CX and technology experts from around the world. We explore, uncover, and share fresh insights on creating experiences that your customers will remember and look forward to. Engati is the world's leading multilingual, no-code digital CX platform available across 15 channels with 53,000 solutions created across 186 countries in every domain and use case. Engati has also been recognized as the top platform by Inc. magazine, Tech World, CIO magazine, and many others. Engati recently also won the Cody 2021 award for being the best AI-driven technology solution. We run the Engati blog, the video channel, the Engati CX podcast, receiving upwards of 400,000 visitors annually. And now for our guest. Michael Hanson is the CEO and founder of Growth Genie, a consultancy that empowers B2B sales teams to have better conversations and get in front of more than their ideal customers through cadences, playbooks, training, and coaching. Michael set up Growth Genie after realizing that generating qualified opportunities from strangers was one of the hardest skills in sales, yet is often given to people with the least experience. So wanted to support and enable them to kind of build successful and fulfill teams in their roles. Welcome to the show, Michael. We are so glad to have you join us today.
Thanks, Kimberly, for the invite. Looking forward to the conversation.
Likewise. Before we dive into our interview with Michael, don't forget to subscribe to Engati and tap the bell icon to get access to exclusive content coming from thought leaders from around the globe. Well, Michael, just hoping that our viewers are going to help build B2B sales teams, start conversations with the ideal prospects, and generate qualified meetings and thus close deals. Hoping that this interview would kind of be like their go-to guide for all of the above mentioned challenges that they would face. Very curious to know your expert opinion on a recent poll that you've put out, where the question was, what was the key to better sales and marketing alignment, where the options were open communication, shared targets and goals, and clearly defined responsibility. What do you have to say about this?
Yeah, sure. I like doing those polls because I actually like finding out other people's opinions on these things. So it's always good to hear. And so there was three options that I gave. I think you mentioned open communication, shared targets and goals, and clearly defined responsibility. Those are the key three things for me. I think the most important one is actually open communication, because I think if you have open communication, it can lead to shared targets and goals and clearly defined responsibility. It seems like the most obvious thing, but what I've seen with a lot of software companies, B2B companies, is sales and marketing never actually talk to each other. So you've got the age-old thing where marketing says sales never close any of our leads, and then sales says that marketing team's leads are rubbish. So what you need to do is have minimum a weekly call. I would say at least speaking a few times a week, where you're interacting with each other, and that communication can lead to conversations like the marketing team asking the sales team, what are the main challenges you're hearing this week from prospects and customers? Because sales are on the front line. So it's really important that sales are feeding back to marketing what they're hearing from customers. And then, also on the flip side, I think sales people are becoming more like marketers. So if there's content that's working really well, then the sales team should be sharing that. So marketing should be telling the sales team, hey, there's some really good content we put out. It's going viral. You may want to share it with prospects. Say like this, for example, if this podcast was very popular, you'd want to share it with your sales team as well and say, hey, people are really enjoying this podcast. You may want to share it with some customers. So
Yes, definitely. And I really think that this conversation also helps in kind of improving or enhancing marketing strategies, right? I mean, looking at how sales is performing, looking at what kind of leads are coming in, accordingly, then marketing team could kind of align their upcoming plans or strategies that they have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you may get 300 marketing leads, but then if none of them close, You have to look at that and say, is it the quality of the leads or is it the sales team's bad? You need to address that issue. So.
Correct. Yes, very well said. Looking from the sales point of view, how can we modify our communication approach for inbound versus outbound prospects?
Yeah, I really like this question because it is different. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of treating them the same. So for example, like if you have an inbound prospect, a very good question to ask is, why did you agree to take the meeting? And like, what are your main performance objectives to get out of our solution? Whereas if you ask a question like that to an outbound, they will say, well, you tell me, you're the one who told me to come on this meeting, right? So it's very different. We find that sales cycles are typically longer as well for outbound versus inbound, because I think when you do outbound, often the sales role is almost doing a bit of marketing, because if you get an inbound lead, it's like marketing's done that awareness piece and then it's more of a bottom of the funnel conversation. Whereas if it's an outbound lead, it's almost like the account executive or whoever the salesperson is has to do a really good job of educating the person and helping them learn. And I think that's something I'd really advise salespeople when you get on demos, and that's inbound or outbound, make sure that the customer learns something new from you that's not just about your demo, it's about some specific pain in the industry that you're educating them about.
Correct. Very curious to know what could be like some challenges that are being faced in the outbound approach for prospects. What do you think that there are some kind of an easy way to get there? Because like you've mentioned, the awareness is not there as compared to inbound prospects. So what could be the challenges here, and how can our sales folks kind of ace that there?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge at the moment, which we use, obviously, we're thinking about what are the challenges of our customers when we do outbound to get their attention. And it's that I think since the pandemic, because people can't meet face to face and go to events and things like that, there's more email automation, more LinkedIn automation than ever before. So if you're a decision maker with a budget, you're getting hundreds of like spam pitches a week. And it's very difficult to break through that noise. So one of the things we recommend is, rather than asking for a demo when you're doing outbound, is drive interest in some type of content. So for example, we know that essentially what we do with companies is we can give them an audit of their sequences. So we're like, hey, if you send us your LinkedIn messaging, your email messaging, your call scripts, we'll just give you some actionable feedback that your sales team can go and use. Rather than saying, hey, will you get on a demo about sales consulting? We're not talking about us. We're trying to make it about them and what they can use.
Yes, you've very well put it. How can businesses go about drawing up sales forecast with an artificial intelligence solution in place?
So when it comes to sales forecasting, I think there's studies around like the number of emails that are sent, for example. So if you've got a deal as like late on in your sales pipeline, say, likely to close in the next 2 weeks, but you have not been interacting them at all for 2 weeks, that's a red flag. So like the number of emails, number of calls, number of replies going back and forth, those are the things to look at. Because if you're a sales manager and your salespeople are saying, hey, this deal is really likely to close, but there's been no interaction for 3 weeks, that's probably a red flag. So it's really important there's like constant communication with that prospect. Because I see a lot of people make the mistake, they just send the proposal and be like, oh, this is going to close. But if you're not continuously interacting with them afterwards, they're going to forget about you. So.
Correct. Yes, of course. Do you have any digital tools in mind that could kind of, help, sales now, since AI driven technology and solutions are kind of, trying to squeeze in their way in every function of a business. Do you have any starter kind of tool set for us to kind of help sales procedures?
Yeah, sure. So there's 2 tools I can think of. So one is Gong. Gong is actually known for call recording and calls, so you can listen to calls and then coach your sales team on calls. But another thing that it does is it actually integrates into your CRM. And then what it will do is show you deals that are at risk. So it also integrates with your email and say, hey, this deal's at risk because you haven't sent them an email, or they haven't sent you an email for 3 weeks. Or another cool thing they say, you've only got one person involved. And if it's a B2B sales cycle, you need at least a few people normally involved to close a deal. And there's another tool called Ebster as well, which is a British company. And they do a similar thing as well. So those are two tools that work quite well.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for kind of giving us like this toolkit. I'm sure this would really be helpful. Well, coming to how we kind of pitch to our prospects, there is a brutal truth that most folks don't trust salesperson probably because they just are salesy. How can we overcome this and create a trust with our prospects right from the first call itself?
Yeah, I think it comes from right at the start when you're onboarding new salespeople. Most people make their onboarding all about the product that you're selling. What you want to do is make your onboarding all about the customers that you have and about how you've helped solve pains for those customers. And then what happens, your talk track becomes about similar people in the industry. So say in my case, talking to a VP of sales at a software company, I may say the same problem I mentioned to you earlier. We're finding it's very difficult for salespeople to break through the noise in software sales because the people they're targeting are getting so many messages. One of the things we've seen work with another client is LinkedIn audio messages. And we see they get 4 times the response rate versus a normal written message. And they say, wow, I didn't know that. So that's the kind of thing you want, where you're a trusted advisor and people come out of the meeting saying, oh, I just learned a load of things that I didn't know before. So forget about your demo, because once you've got that trust, then it becomes much easier to sell something. And rather than, as you say, being that sleazy salesperson.
Right. I really like the point where you said that it is very essential to make it all about the customer. In fact, if you just talk to the customer and ask them what their problems are, what kind of a solution are they looking for, and then maybe kind of alter the way we kind of talk to them would really help. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that can be another part of onboarding. Interview customers. If you've got really happy customers, they'll be happy to talk to your sales team, and your sales team can ask the questions. Oh, what problems were you facing when you signed up? How did we help solve them? What's been taken off your plate? And that's not just good for salespeople, that's good for like marketing, that's good for every side of the business.
Correct. You clearly mentioned that making it about the customer is very important, but what is your golden tip for pitching a good sales pitch?
Yeah, I think not pitching, right? So your pitch, you shouldn't even call it a pitch. I think you should call it like a value proposition, because then it's all about, for me, we always say, never start a sentence in sales with the word we, always start it with the word you, right? So, for example, we target companies that are hiring salespeople because we know if they're hiring salespeople, they may need help with the training, right? So our value proposition or pitch would be, notice that you're hiring salespeople. Typically, we find the problems with hiring is it takes a long time for them to be fully productive. On average, it's 4 months before a salesperson is productive. And then it's about that. And then only once we've done that, we talk about how we can help them with that training and onboarding. So yeah, it's flip the script. So you don't start with the we, you start with the you.
Correct. Do you have an experience that you've come across with that you would like to share where, the customer just agreed because of the pitch and was like what could be the essential things that you could kind of, put in a pitch, or like you said, a value proposition? What, in your experience, what do you think could be the ideal one?
Yeah, so we had a customer come in recently. This sequence audit I mentioned earlier is only something we recently started doing. And so essentially it was actually a webinar lead. So it was someone that had signed up for a webinar, head of marketing who had a few SDRs. And I sent him a personalized email after and said, hey, notice you attended the webinar. Also notice you've got a few SDRs. I imagine they're sending outbound sequences. If you share the messaging, we can give you some free advice. Another one of our software clients who did this was able to 3 times their reply rate on LinkedIn. And then when I got on a call with him, eventually we closed the deal and he said, as soon as I read that message, I knew we were going to work with you because it was so different to all the other salespeople that are just pitching their own products. So yeah, just think about something that's super valuable to your client that they can come away from a call and be like, I just learned so much of them.
Yes, definitely. You said it best. Are there any other sound bites you'd like to leave our audience with?
No, I mentioned one earlier, which is like LinkedIn audio notes. We're seeing really good results for those across our clients. No one sends them. Again, I get pitched a lot every week on LinkedIn and email. I've never received an audio note, I don't think. And then videos are working very well as well. So there's some different tools like Vidyard, Loom that you can use. And with those, what I recommend as well, a lot of people just take selfie videos or share screen of their product. Again, flip the script. So share screen, maybe on their LinkedIn. So say I was the target, you, Kimberly, I could go on your LinkedIn, share screen and say, hey, I noticed you run this podcast, and then start a conversation around that, around your podcast, rather than around, sales consulting or what I'm trying to sell.
Yes, indeed. This is really helpful. Thank you so much, Michael, for kind of putting together all the essentials, and clearing out the basic things in terms of talking to our customers and how we kind of move around this sales cycle very smoothly. Thank you so much for giving us your time. Your insights were really valuable.
No, pleasure. Thanks for the invite, Kimberly.
Thank you. We'll be back again with a new episode and a brand new expert soon. So stay tuned and we'll see you around for the next one.